Stephen Bardo is a BTN analyst who's been covering Thad Matta for years and years. He joins us on the phone for reaction now as well. Stephen, one thing that struck me as interesting was that these two men, the AD and the head coach, talked at the end of the year, and there was no decision to push forward, that there needed to be a change. But now it's June, and there is a reason to push forward. Why?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Mike, and I think some of it will come out a little bit later, but I think some of it may have to do with recruiting. In watching the news conference, one of the reporters asked a great question about the plethora of talent that's coming out of the state of Ohio and the fact that some of the talent has eluded Ohio State and Thad Matta for whatever reason. And so there may have been a situation where Gene Smith was giving Thad an opportunity to start the recruiting process, and if he could make some inroads, maybe they keep him another year or two. But I think, it'll get clear as we get a little bit further into the summer, but I think it may have had something to do with recruiting.
It is 2 straight missed NCAA tournaments now for Thad Matta, and when you look at the first decade of his run in Columbus, it's hard to imagine that happening with Sweet 16s year after year. So why has it been a downturn the last few years in your eyes?
Thad is kind of an old school guy. I mean, he was able to amend his system to his players that were in his that he recruited to his system. But the thing is, Thad is going to hold you accountable, and he's not really going to give or take here or there. I mean, he'll work with individual players with their particular situations, Mike. But I think that Thad Matta holds the line pretty well in terms of what his expectations are, and I think a lot of times that's used against him in other situations. And I think you've seen a lot of guys transfer in the last few years. I think Thad and his staff have tried to maybe take a few exceptions to their rules, and it's kind of backfired on them. And so I think it's kind of a perfect storm in going the other way for Ohio State in terms of the type of players they've tried to get into their program, and it just didn't work out for that particular system.
Yeah, just looking at the 2015 recruiting class alone, it was nationally ranked in the top 5, and yet all 5 guys from that class are now out of the program. But let me talk to you about the better times. What made him so good as a head coach?
Well, Thad Matta I've been very fortunate to be around some guys, and full disclosure, Thad and I go back since I was in high school, and he was at Southern Illinois University. So we go back quite a ways, but I know Thad very well. And Thad can get in a pressurized situation and come in and laugh and tell a joke when they've got to draw up a last-second shot. And he has an uncanny ability to assess where his players are and what they need at particular times. And Thad is one of the best in the game at that. And I think that when he got the type of talent that was coming through Columbus in 2006 and 2008 and 2010, those players knew that in crunch time situations, one, Thad was going to put them in situations to succeed, but also he understood when he needed to be tough on his guys, but also when he needed to crack a joke, when he needed to be, put his arm around guys a little bit more. He has a very good way of assessing what his players need at any particular situation.
He does have a charming side. He personally used to talk about when he got married. It was 11 days after his engagement, and they got married so fast. It was such a hot day. The venue wasn't ready and everything. He had to wipe sweat off his wife's face to do the official kiss when they got married. There was something interesting, Stephen, that was said today between him and Gene Smith, which is that he'll be a part of the interviewing process for the new head coach at Ohio State. What do you think that process will be like?
Oh, he's going to sit there and vet. I mean, he's going to vet the coaches, and Thad will get more information about the coaches than anybody Gene Smith could ever hire. Any coach searching firm, anything like that. If you recall, I think he said the late Skip Prosser helped Xavier bring in a coach after he was let go, and he ensured that Thad Matta was the right choice. And Thad is probably, if Thad says he's going to do and help the Ohio State bring in the right coach, that's exactly what he's going to do. So he may be part of a one-man search committee with Gene Smith, and they will identify coaches that they want to go after. And believe me, they're going to go after some big ones. And Thad will be the perfect guy to help that transition. Because let's be honest, Mike, Thad probably could have retired a couple of years ago. He has been battling these health issues for some time. And, I mean, it's been really, really bad. And I hope that he is comfortable enough at some point to let people understand what he was really going through on a daily basis, because it really took something for him to just show up every day.
Yeah, fighting the foot drop, 4 major back surgeries, as he talked about as well, and that contributed to the fact that this past year, was the worst season he's had as a head coach. But Thad mentioned just a few moments ago how he wanted to be remembered. Let's listen in.
You know, I hope, number one, remembered as a really good person and a guy who cared about the university, a guy that cared about his players. And, you know, I think from that perspective, that's probably what's most important to me. You know, the wins, the losses, you know, those things, they come. You know, we hit a stretch here that was probably about a 5-year stretch, as good as anybody in the country in terms of college basketball. And I think the last thing that I hope I'm always remembered for is we always did it the right way. And that to me is something that I'm going to hold or hang my hat on, that this program was run the right way.
That's what he said. Stephen, what do you think his legacy will be?
I think his legacy will be that of the golden era of Ohio State basketball. I know Ohio State fans would have liked to see a national championship, but Thad got them at the door several times. I just think that he'll go down as a winner. He'll go down as some of the most talented players in a very storied program. He brought in some of the most talented players that program has ever seen, and he will go down as a winner, in my opinion.
Stephen Bardo, BTN analyst, thank you for calling in and giving us your insight on this. We appreciate it, man.
My pleasure, Mike.